Yeah, hello everyone. And firstly, I would like to introduce our talker today, the Marwa ElDiwiny. And now she is a researcher at Regis University in Brazil, Belgium, in Department of Mechanical Engineering. And prior to her current position, she was a research graduate at Twente University in Netherlands, and was also a researcher at INRA in France and a research scholar at Tartu Institute of Technology in Estonia. And she was once an associate lecturer in Minya University, Egypt for around 6 years. And another important identity of Marwa is that she's also the founder and the host of IEEE Soft Robotics podcast. And she has interviewed tens of researchers from academia to industry. And last year, she was also listed as one of the 30 women in robotics you need to know on RoboHub. And welcome, Marwa, to join us. And yeah, go ahead.
Thanks so much. It's an honor, and I appreciate what you're doing, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here. Yeah.
So,
before we really go into the interview, and I would thank all of the people who contribute to the preparation of this interview. And Haocheng will give a brief introduction about this society.
Okay, thank you, Xuan. Thank you for introducing our guest and me. I believe most of the attendees are our old friends, but for some friends who first time join our event, I would like to briefly introduce our society. So the Marley Society is a non-profit organization that aims to build a community for young scholars to freely and equally build connections, share their work, and exchange thoughts. So there are 3 series of events we are currently organizing. TMS Talks focuses on sharing knowledge, scientific research, and the popularization of science. And WBA Talk, which is World Beyond Academia Talk, is about sharing the stories in the world related, but also beyond academia. So today's event is one of this series. And TMS Workshop is to help young scholars develop their diverse skill sets. And of course, sometimes we also have some special issues. For example, we have invited Dr. Stephen Cranford, the chief editor from Matter, share his story for being an editor. And also last time we invited Dr. Xuan, the stand-up comedian, to share his story about the stand-up comedian. So more types of events are being planned now, and please follow our website and the social media accounts for the latest updates. All right, so go back to our talk today. Thank you, Marwa, for being here. So, Xuan, just briefly introduce yourself, but we would like to hear a more detailed introduction about your background and who you are, what you do, and like what stories you're probably gonna share with us today.
Thank you. So thank you once again for the opportunity, and I believe what you're doing, guys, is very important to highlight more people, maybe who's doing work in academia or any kind of activity. So thank you for the opportunity. And as you introduced me, I'm grateful for this opportunity, but I would like to define myself. I'm really passionate about what I'm doing, and I think life is so short and limited, and that's something I remind myself every day, that I want to do something is really fulfilling to me, at least, even if it's a small thing, but at least it makes you satisfied and bring joy to your life and has this sense of purpose, because it's very important to find something you feel satisfied with. And you're doing for, even if a very small thing, but at least you find joy and happiness. So I'm define myself and be passionate, hardworking. Of course, there's a lot of downside in each human. We are not perfect, but I'm trying to improve as much as I can. And hopefully I have a fulfilling life. That's what I can define myself briefly.
Yeah, thank you, Marwa. I think looks like you really like to have a different life, a special life, right? Yeah. And so actually, we're really interested in your podcast because we know that many researchers are only focused on their own scientific issues or scientific work, but you choose to start the podcast in the field of technology and science, right, in soft robotics. I'm wondering, where does this idea come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, as you mentioned at the beginning, I start my academic career at early age, because in Egypt it's really different from here. So in the West, for example, you got a tenure position, and it's really just really different. So, and I did my master's, and I really enjoyed teaching a lot. Of course, at this time I was working in different domain about unmanned aerial vehicle control, but so I really enjoy teaching, and I feel that you have to learn a lot. You have to have a lot of skills, and I found that it's not really enough. I just want to do something. I was working in anti-stealth technology for safe piloting. So how to detect a stealthy object or non-visible object. But all the time it was also around material science. So, but deep down, although you have this tenure position and it's safe, I never seek for a tenure position. That's something just come naturally. So when you are to be student, but I don't believe in the system anyway. But I took a sabbatical leave to pursue in soft robotics, and that's why I was interested in 2015 in soft robotics, and I started to pursue that. I want to do a PhD. So after the master's, you think about the PhD, and maybe later you come back to your academic position. But what had happened was expected, because we expect our life to be direct, but sometimes life got throwing events to you and make it different passes. But when I got to robotics field, I was very interested in material science, because I always passionate to understand material science, and even in my master I used also material science. But I was working in simulation of smart materials called ionic conductive polymer, and it was in France, and I was really enjoying the work. But there's a lot of, maybe when you work in academia and you as a PhD student, you're not allowed sometimes. I'm not making a super generalization, but sometimes you're not allowed to have kind of argument, or sometimes there's a lot of ego, and I think that's something I had a lot of question when I starting my research, but it's at the end of 1 year and a half, I was forced to leave, and that was really not hard. It was a painful experience, because I was working hard. And that's something I advise a student to balance. You have to also not focus all the attention on one side in your life, because that's something wasn't really, I don't recommend that. And I moved to another country, and I didn't know why this happened to me, but I have this question, and I was really passionate about this smart material, and I was trying to find answers for these questions. And at this time, I was doing a few podcasts for other location, for example, just something, yes, like 4 or 5, but I was always wanted to do something about podcasting, interviewing. There's something I had when I was at early age, when I, like 10 years ago. That's something I was imagining talking, and but I didn't have the confidence enough to do something like that. And when I moved again, I had maybe enough money to buy a mic, and I went to a conference, because it took a lot of sometimes money to do that. And I started this podcast. The first episode was Professor Robert Shepard, and I listed all the questions I wanted to ask, or I have, when I was forced to leave, and I didn't find the reason why I was forced to leave. And I find a lot of joy and healing. The podcast is a healing for me as well, because as now it's 2 years for the podcast, but it's really literally changed my life and my character, because there's a lot of benefits I gained from the podcasting. But I started because I just wanted to know, and I wanted to connect, because one of the things is, I think I'm a little bit introverted person, but in the lab, when you spend a lot of time, you don't have the opportunity to speak with people, and sometimes you feel, at least for me, just lonely. I want to talk with people, if you read a paper, of course, I'm not saying that podcasting is replacing papers of publication, but it gives a way to connect with people just as a human and know about them. And I didn't expect it to be turned that way. Of course, I'm not saying it's a big thing, it's a small thing, but at least for me, I hopefully I can do something more important in the future. But yeah, just connecting with people and asking the question I wanted to know back then, and also healing for me. So that's why I started the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, sounds, you face some difficulties and it looks like you found the medicine.
Yeah.
From creating the podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know that, I mean, we always know that there is a huge gap between thinking and doing, right? After you have the idea that you would like to have a podcast, but if you want to continue to, I mean, for example, like once a week to interview one person, you need to do a lot of work into that. I'm curious about how could you get connection to the Ieee Society, and how could you invite so many famous researchers in this field?
Yeah. That's a good question. I was working for IEEE since I was an undergraduate student. For the chapter, first it started with the sections, and then I was in chapters in Egypt as IEEE RAS. So I have a really passion for IEEE since I was undergrad student. But when I started the podcast, I would like to thank you, Professor Fumia Lida, the chair of IEEE Robotics Society. And when I was in the conference, I sent him, look, I'm joining this podcast, and I have this question. I interviewed Robert Schubert, and I think that's something, the idea that we want to have people to be interviewed in a certain theme and ask the question. Sometimes we can't find in a paper. Sometimes you need this kind of reality for this question. Is this true or not? And he really supported me, and he gave me the opportunity to do that. And yeah, I have to say that he was really, and still he is really supportive and believing in me so much. So much credit to him. And later on, I also joined IEEE RASSEC as a student activities co-chair as well. And I would like to also thank Alex and Emmy and Kissy. They are this team. They are really, really great team, and they are trying to support, disseminate what I'm doing. It's still, of course, volunteer work, but it's the idea that you need to find the group of people that's supporting you and pushing you. That's the most important thing. So yeah, and I believe that even students who would like to join IEEE, it's not have necessary to have the membership, or that's something we discussed. Sorry?
I think that's kind of an echo.
That's noise, yeah.
That's noise. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so if any student listening and want to do activities, because it's so important, besides your work, you have this kind of connection and work beyond your lab. You have to find mentors and people outside your lab. That's the, I don't know how to say it, but it is like a treasure to find people have your back and support you. And I'm so grateful for that. Yeah. And if you would like to connect or send in emails to the team, IEEE team, and volunteer, I would be happy to connect with you. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you are doing everything like as a volunteer, not kind of a employment by
no.
IEEE. Yeah. Oh wow, that's took you a lot of passion to devote such much effort and time, for doing this job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I was curious, like, how do you balance the time you devoted to your own research and to in this podcast? Because both of the research and I believe the podcast hosting stuff are quite time consuming, and you must be very energetic, I think.
Yeah. That's a very good question. And I think luckily the podcasting is really correlated to my research. And that's the reality. I'm really learning from each guest, and many of ideas that I didn't know about that. And after having this conversation with certain guests, I said, oh, okay, that's something could be really beneficial to my research. So yeah, of course, podcasting take a lot of time. I'm taking, for example, evening or weekends sometimes to do this work for editing. but I'm trying to, of course, at the end of the day, the research is very challenging. It takes a lot of time and hours, but literally, if I'm listening to or trying to see an episode, I'm working and listening at the same time. So I don't think it's just it's really complement my research, and I'm learning. It's to have this kind of just listening to the guest and this argument and questions, all that's related to my research. So I don't think it's really drilling my research. It's really complementing, and I gain a lot of benefit from listening to these people in the podcast, and even get ideas for my research from the podcast.
Yeah, just like I learned, I think I could learn something from your talk and from the interview with you. And so, I mean, the next question would be, might be a challenge. We noticed that there is a really long name list on your podcast. So do you remember how many people you have been interviewed before?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's really a lot of number, but it's not about the number again, because it's about, I think the podcast has, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So each guest, I learned something, and it would be unfair if I say one particular person. And when I am sharing this picture, because it's people, maybe, for example, Professor Kathy Portlidi and Chiara, they really impressed me about the work about nonlinearities, especially geometric, how we can couple geometric and material nonlinearities, that we can have this kind of intrinsic functionalities, for example, intrinsic displacement, or kind of intelligence in the structure. So that's something, when I listen to them, that's something shifted my mind. So I want to focus on that. And I found that I'm very passionate about this subject. And by the way, it's correlated to my research direction. So I remember also Professor Johnson Rooster, he was speaking about failure. And I have to be honest with you, when I'm going to really not great moment in my life, because everyone has not great moment in their life. I remember this quote from in the podcast, Professor Johnson Rooster, he's saying that perseverance in the face of failure. And when I remind myself that, sometimes we have moments we are not happy about ourselves. So this moment of the podcast, as I said again, it's a healing for me. Literally, it's a healing for me. So everyone really impressed me in maybe advice or situation when they're sharing this moment. I think that's very valuable to me. And as you can see here also, lately we have a podcast series on embodied intelligence. And thanks to Professor Fomi Alida, he asked me to do this series. We had Professor Donald Hoffman and Gus Iben. And these two guests, especially because they're speaking about what is actual embodied intelligence. Is it the brain or the body, or maybe something completely different? And for Donald Hoffman, he was speaking about whether we see the reality as this. Do you see everything as we're supposed to know as a human? Is it space and time? Is it a real representation for the reality? Long story short, these two guys, their conversation made me realize that we are human here for a very limited time. And that makes me just aware that I have to understand everything around, not everything, but pay attention to everything around me. And because life is so fast, and that's something to be honest, makes me sometimes afraid. I think that was awakening for me. These two guys were speaking about how we can have a living system, and what's the meaning to be living and not living, and what is the reality. And we have a certain fitnesses as a human being, why we are designed in a certain way. So I think what they're trying to say has a combination between what we do in science and the spirituality, and we have to be critical. So I felt so afraid. I feel that, I don't know, I just was awakening for me to listening, both of them. And the last one, I think Sandy Morono, because I had him in the podcast. He was speaking about Tesla new materials and Elon Musk, because that's something I was very interested. And I didn't expect, to be honest with you, the feedback for this episode, because I thought that, sometimes you have episode and no one will listen to it, because at the end of the day, as I'm hosting that, I know for sure I'm talking to you. I'm not really expert. I'm not saying I know everything. If I say that, it will be a recipe for failure for me. Yeah, because I know there's a lot to be done, and I have to have a deep understanding. And I admit that sometimes I don't have a deep understanding for certain topics. Maybe after the episode, I figure out I have to have deep understanding. But for this episode, I didn't expect the feedback from people. I just published it on YouTube, and I didn't expect the amount of feedback and comments I had never had in my life, and they like this episode so much. So that's something I take a lot of responsibility that I need to have to dig deep. And I still, to be honest, it takes a lot of effort and time to understand subjects. And yeah, because again, I'm not perfect. I know there's more and more to be done and to have a deep understanding. But this episode, I really enjoyed it with Sandy Bruno, and he was kind enough for his time to be in the podcast. Yeah, but this is maybe the most one sticking to my mind. But of course, all of them leave something in me. Yeah.
All right, so I heard a lot of like ups and downs
Yeah.
from your hosting experience, and like you share some very memorable moments in this hosting experience. And I'm also quite, because we are also doing this kind of a platform for people sharing, who are doing science to sharing their latest results or like their discoveries. But it's quite different from for hosting some events to deal with people doing science, because some people, some scientists, they are not very talkative, not very good at communicates with or like talk their work. So how do you deal with if some scientists or some guests are not as talkative as other people? Yeah, I believe that could not be a very easy job, right?
That's a very excellent question. I just want to say that because maybe when you speak with people that they do really great work, but sometimes when you try to speak, because at the end of the day, you want to listen to something, at least you enjoy it, because it doesn't mean that maybe you're great science, but sometimes you don't want to talk, and it's hard for people to follow up. But yeah, it happens. And it is hard because when you have this kind of interviewing people, it takes a lot of time to think about, because when I start, I feel it's very cold. And I have to be honest, after starting each episode, I feel pain and stomach that I don't know how I'm going to handle that. But I don't know, something that when I'm going and see they are very cold and not engaging, I'm trying to think before that how I can push a little bit harder to open up. And I don't know how that happened, but maybe because I'm now have more than 200 episodes, and it's still there are a lot to learn. And sometimes, at the end of the day of this conversation, you would like to go out and feel happy. It's because it's you feel it's mutual. Like you feel happy, and I feel happy because we have something was engaging, and we find something. Yeah, it's like food, for example. We're doing anything that you enjoy, both of you enjoy. And sometimes if it's really hard, I'm trying to push it. Yeah, it's you need to give this flow, but I don't know, because sometimes in my mind I'm thinking which question I have to go for. At the beginning I was taking list of questions early on, like 2 years ago, but when I go, you can't do that. You can't, because it's just jumping, and you try to go from one direction to other, and maybe question pop up, and I'm trying to, I don't know, but I'm just trying to think what kind of question to push them, and it depends on the moment. So I'm not trying to exaggerating, but it's sometimes hard when you have this kind of conversation and you think about before the next one, and you try to act, you just have a normal conversation, but it is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But if the guests really would like to talk, and they are really passionate, it's magnificent, that you feel happy. But if it's hard, and I understand that sometimes for myself, maybe maybe sometimes I'm not really in the mood, but yeah, if the guest is not speaking, it would be hard. But I'm trying to push as much as I can. But I don't know. At the end of the day, the audience is the judge here, and I can't judge for myself. But
yes,
yeah,
but sometimes you can from like maybe the feedback of the podcast
Yeah.
to see like if this talk is like
Yeah.
successful or not. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so basically, do you have any other team members right now in your
No.
team? Like, no,
No.
only yourself?
Yeah, I appreciate, to be honest, to be by myself. I tell you why. I love freedom. I'm sorry, but I have to see when you have the freedom, because I'm an introverted person. So introverted, I don't know, but a little bit introverted. I don't want to. I appreciate my own time, my alone time.
Mm-hmm.
I love working in teams, but I found this podcasting is just, you have the freedom. If you want to do anything, you have absolute freedom to do whatever you want to do. And I think that's something I wanted to get rid of.
Yeah, because
At
I
least
think,
Yeah.
I think because why I think about this question is because looks like for each guest you have to prepare, like you have
Yeah.
to know at least about his or her
Yeah.
research work, and you probably also have to know his or her personality. So I
Yeah.
believe there are a lot of preparation work, and maybe because I saw there are more and more followers of your podcast, maybe you are planning to have more
Yeah.
team members to help you. But
Yeah, I don't know, but to be honest with you, maybe if it's in the future, because maybe editing. But when you come to of course, the selection and the guest, I just, you want to select something you're really passionate about, or it's really have your interest. But of course, I have to be admitted, sometimes draining. If you want to prepare, and sometimes I have time crying. It's just hard for me. And sometimes you want to stop because it is hard. Also, me people, yeah, as I said, podcasting, any tool, because I don't compare myself to great podcasters, but I'm still in the beginning. But it is hard because there's also audience maybe hate what you're doing, and it's okay, because I speak. Not everyone have to like what you're doing, but the idea is to keep pushing forward, keep pushing, and it's hard. But by the time, as long as you enjoy it, that's it. You have to enjoy what you're doing. It brings you joy. So yeah, I think that's the reward you will have. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that you have to do something you really have passion on that, and you really want to do that. Okay, so let's talk about your research life. So like, how did you get interested in this software robotics? Like, yeah, because I believe from your peer experience, you were doing automatic vehicles, automatic, like, yeah, driving or something like that. It's everything is rigid in that word. I know you're going to a compliant word.
Yeah.
And
so yeah,
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So for software robotics field, as I mentioned, I'm really passionate about smart material. Although that I moved now from labs to, I'm now working in self-healing materials. So, but my passion in software robotics, I think, came from this material, any conductive polymer, because this material can work as actuator and sensor at the same time. And we know that sensing in the field still have a lot of limitation. Either we have to embed it on the material, what kind of topology or structure. But I really love this material, and I think there's people, for ionic conductive polymer, I think people give up sometimes in that, because there's a lot of trade-offs, there's a lot of limitation. But yeah, as I said, I'm just working now in simulation, so I don't have really published work yet, but hopefully I will get something about modeling and simulation for self-healing material, what kind of structure we have to have in the design. So yeah, that's basically what I'm doing now in this area about modeling and simulation for self-healing materials. But previously I was working mainly in ionic conductive polymer, and I think this material, I really learned a lot from this material. If you try to understand it, so it gives you a lot of insights about soft robotics, because you go to the extreme, I think, of smart material. So yeah, maybe that's how I perceive it. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we all know that publication is not the only thing in research life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, before, so you talk that failure, when the interviews talk about the failure and that impress you the most, but actually, however, I noticed that you have made an amazing achievement, right? You are named as one of the one of 30 women in robotics on the Robot Hub. And actually, both you and I understand that as a female, or as a female in the field of science and technology, it is really difficult actually to have such great achievement. I'm wondering, do I have any moment that you would like to quit, and how could you face this difficulties and handle it?
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And you said it right. I think, first of all, there's a lot of amazing women and like you and others, they are enjoying a huge success, and that's true. But yeah, for me, I have a lot of moments I want to quit. It's just hard. Yeah, because let's be honest, maybe sometimes we have the surface that looks everything is great, but deep down we know there's sometimes behind the wall there's a lot of things going on, and we are not we're afraid to speak about that. By the way, I'm not really saying that we need more women or men. For me, I just believe in a human. As long as what you bring to the table, that's it. I don't care from who you are, or what's your nationality, what's your color. I don't really give a shit about that. I'm sorry, but that's what you bring to the table. But the reality is, and that's, I'm not speaking that, I'm not making a sweeping generalization, but yes, still there is people that sometimes you are a woman, you're not good enough, or you're from certain location, you're not good enough, whatever. There's something still, I don't know, maybe in the mentality of certain people. And I to be honest, I think it depends that we need to be honest, and because when I speak even with women in the podcast, I understand that I don't want to say that we speak about women only, because everyone has to have the right opportunity and equal opportunity, whatever they are, but the reality is they speak about that, and they talk that they try to make their head down and more submissive and don't have their own character until you be tenured position or something like that. But for me, as I said, I don't believe in hierarchy. I don't believe in, I just believe that you can respect everyone. That's it. That's what I see. But in reality, this is not happening. In reality, not everyone's like you. Some people will accept you. Some people will not accept you. Some people will see that you don't deserve that. And it's happening. They will not say it, but deep down, I know they show you that maybe jealous from you. There's something happening that, but we don't have to give much attention. I recommend everyone that's keep pushing forward, and don't let anyone define who you are. For example, before starting the podcast in this lab, before leaving, this supervisor told me that you will not make it in the robotics field. I don't believe that you can do it. And I told him, I remember he was very, very narcissistic person. And I told him, okay, you let me go, and that's your decision. But for me, I do believe in myself. And I told him that literally. And I was in very lowest moment in my life, just very bad when you leave a country and go to another country and by yourself as a woman. So it's just very hard. But I found the strength that I didn't believe in myself. It just didn't make sense to me. But as time goes by, you have to believe in yourself, because there's a lot of people who will try to drag you down and don't want to see you successful. And that's the reality as a human being. So yeah, I just recommend everyone to believe in yourself and don't let anyone define who you are. That's very important.
All right. Yeah, I also quite agree with that. You really have to have a true belief in your own heart, kind of belief. And so you mentioned that you moved from one country to another country. That's also what we find quite interesting from your like the website. You moved many countries, like you were born in Egypt, right? And then
no, I was born in Bahrain. It's a Gulf country.
Oh, really? Okay. So, but you studied in Egypt. Then you
I came to Egypt. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you were also working in Estonia, and then France, now in Belgium. So you travel a lot of countries. So what is the motivation, and do you have any funny or interesting stories behind this, multicultural experience?
Yeah, for me, as I said, I'm trying to be different, because sometimes when I was in my small city, when I came from the country I was born in, so I feel a stranger, to be honest. That's something all the time I feel a stranger, because I just wanted to see the world and to be connected with different background and culture. I love traveling so much. And the motivation, when I traveled to France, it was personal, professional. I lost my mother when I was 19, and then my grandmother when I left. And that was a breaking point for me. I just wanted to have a new life. I had a rebirth when I traveled. And I think that's something I recommend everyone to, if you want to start a new life sometime. Of course, there's a lot of huge challenges. But for me, literally, when I moved from each country, it's really hard. It's not fun. There are a lot of challenges, but you learn something. It's expanding your mind, and you see something I found very interesting, that human being are the same. You know, I thought that if you are from different demographic regions, we'd be different. But at the end of the day, we are exactly the same. And that's something when I moved a lot, that's something I am so grateful for that. So I have from each place people, friends I can go, but I connected with people because, you know, we are the same. We are exactly the same. We have the same way of thinking. Well, of course, there's nuances here, but human beings are the same. We can. That's something. Maybe sound a cliche, but it's true. And yeah, it's sometimes a challenge, I say, because when you move a lot, you try to. For me, I don't want to be in a certain identity, because I found myself, I just want to blend with people. Other people don't accept that. They want to blend their origin. But for me, I just want to I don't know, decentralize it. I just want to be in a different places. So of course that was a rich experiences. Also there's a lot of challenges, and still, yeah.
Yeah, well, I believe that's also like multi-cultural kind of experience. It could definitely benefit either from personal life or like even also in academia.
Yeah.
So do you have any future plans? So you want to finish your PhD and maybe find a still stay in academia, like do more contribution to this software robotics, this emerging promising community?
Yeah. That's a very good question. To be honest, I don't have a definite answer, although I am in academia and on a sabbatical leave from my academic job. But for me, I have to be honest with you, that's a question I'm struggling with that every day. But I tell you something, we don't know what lies in the future. For me, if you asked me 2 years ago, did I expect that will happen to me? I didn't have any zero idea that will happen to me. And all that happened for a reason. Sometimes you don't know why things happen. You don't understand, but maybe after 2 years, that happened for a reason. So if you ask me this question, I'm just telling myself, I'm honest with you, that just enjoy the process. All I know that I'm here in this moment. That's all I know. And hopefully, whatever the choices is going to open up for me, because sometimes we are human, we can't anticipate what's going to happen in the future, will be at least happy with that. That's, I think, the most, to be happy or enjoy it. Because when I was in academic job, I have to be honest, I'm so grateful for it, but I felt this is not the maximum potential I needed. I didn't feel myself as Marwa. Everyone has to feel, yes, I feel myself, because maybe in a certain workplace, I don't know, you don't feel this kind of, I'm here, I'm meaningful to the place, but sometimes you have to, I don't know, that's why you have to do what you can do in the moment, and maybe the universe, the future, I don't know, something will be attracted automatically to, hopefully, whatever the choices, academia or be something else.
Yeah, it's just like her famous saying, like life is a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're gonna take for next time. Yeah,
true.
Okay, so all right, so then the final section, we're gonna talk a little bit about your personal life. So you are quite very successful host in this scientific field. So do you like hosting events since you're a child, or you like just learning that when you have realize that you have to do this? Or
I have to be honest with you, I didn't consider myself as a child. I have a very weak personality.
oh, okay.
I was I don't know, but just it really wasn't great at all. So,
So
I was
you
very
were,
shy.
yeah. So you were
Sorry?
not kind of, I mean, you were not kind of person like want to always like to talk in public.
No, no, no.
Oh, okay.
And even after the podcast, if you see me in the places, I don't want to speak, and sometimes it's very silent, and it's weird, you know, because people sometimes tell me that you connect with people so fast, and you find, but in reality, I'm very, very introvert a little bit. I don't speak a lot, but yeah, as a child, I didn't even speak a lot, and I was very shy, and I didn't have even self-esteem as a child. So yeah, so it wasn't really like now. Yeah.
All right. So I believe let's Xuan have some more questions.
Okay, yeah. Actually, so from the website, we noticed that you have a lot of hobbies, right? But yeah, I'm curious what's the most favorite thing you like to do in your spare time?
Yeah. As I said, the maybe podcasting, but of course I'm passionate about drawing. That's something I was doing since I was a child. So of course this is not really the best thing, but I'm not really good at taking photos. So, but I just draw female characters at very few seconds. What's really fun about the drawing, because when you have, sometimes I draw character and I speak with them, and I used to do that maybe 10 years ago to communicate with them. If you, it's just really crazy, but I used to draw many characters, and each character I saw myself in the drawing. So if she's sad, if she's, I don't know how this happened, but I like even designing the jewelry and the dresses. I don't have a pictures, but yeah, but I just want to do that when the time available. But I really like drawing so much, yeah. And this is my own style. I know it's not perfect, but that's something expressing me, and I can draw it in very, very few seconds. So I think that's something, yeah, I enjoy doing the most.
Yeah, actually, I noticed that the one you said that the drawing the woman characters in few seconds, right? But I mean, the point is, I'm really curious about why only women, but are you not interested in drawing men? It's
That's a very good question, by the way, and I'm glad you asked this question, because when I was a kid, I when I draw a man, it looks like a woman. I don't know why.
Okay, next time I probably want to invite you to draw a character for me. Let me to see what I will look like a woman in your figure. I'm joking.
I don't like a drink. It's just very, yeah.
But I mean, that's great. I mean, why? We only focus on the woman, right? It's not bad.
Okay. All right. So, Marwa, thank you very much for being here. And we know that you built such successful podcast, and currently many like people are also trying to build their own platform to like kind of you know, communicate with more people about their own ideas, either in scientific field or other field.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for other similar platforms like YouTuber, podcaster, some people who are working on this?
Yeah. Thank you for asking this question. First of all, like you guys, what you're doing now is something to bring people, maybe audience, we could maybe find something out of this talk or out as well. I find that a lot of amazing people, they have a really deep understanding, and they communicate even over Twitter. That's kind of communication. It's not necessarily to be YouTube or podcast, or that. Of course, there's a lot of people I'm following. I have a huge respect for Professor Darren Lebomi. He's hosting molecular podcasting, and I think what he's doing as a professor and trying to really go to the specifics of academia and highlighting voices also about people who had failure and become very successful in the field of chemical engineering. I think that's something I highly recommend following. And also Brian Keating, he's also hosting Into Impossible podcast. He's really have all the brilliant minds. So I think that's one that when you have this kind of listening to people like that, maybe you gain something. So I think that the point is whatever you want to do, either blog, because I know there are more smarter people than me that's doing excellent work, and you can find them also on Twitter. They have a blog, or they have a passion for something, or tools, or so I think all these forms and shapes. And at the end of the day, you influence people, and people will choose what they like it. But yeah, I think we have a lot of tools, YouTube, podcasting. But at the end of the day, you have to be passionate, and you do it for the right purpose and right intention. That's the point, because people are smart and can discern what is really you're doing for a right purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you do the right purpose, you're gonna see the feedback.
Yeah.
It will be like better and getting better and better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Marwa. Let's
Thank you.
see. Let's take a look. Maybe people or our attendees have any questions, and if anyone have any questions, just yeah, raise your hand. You can directly communicate or to our guest today.
Maybe I can have a questions.
Yeah, sure, Jane, go ahead.
Yeah. So you know, I'm also really like hi Marwa. I'm really like enjoyed your interview, and actually you probably know that I'm also very interested in drawing, and so I'm just wondering like why you choose only to draw like a character in a few seconds. Have you ever think about, you know, draw like a bit longer so to add more details, like so yeah, so I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. That's a very excellent question, by the way, because it's reflecting something on my character. That's true. Yeah. I thank you. I would like to thank you for this question, because to be honest with you, my character, that's a downside of me. I just want to do something very fast and don't have patience. And I think that even reflect in my research maybe sometimes, that you need to have this kind of patience and just take your time. So maybe I think that's even reflecting in my personal life, in my research life, and that's something I want to improve it. So that's why maybe I'm so fast. But when I'm drawing so fast, I get the shape of the character. But if you ask me to spend a lot of time to fill the hair, for example, and make it more darker, I lose interest. But that's downside. You have to, if you want, and that's something, even the podcast itself, I'm planning, hopefully that if you want to have something very, very perfect, you have, and that's advice I received from other podcasters, that you have to spend a lot of time. And that's something I still not good at it. So I have to do that. I believe so. But that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. But I also know that if you want to really improve your drawing skills, sometimes you have to put a limit on the time, so that you have to capture the most important features of the characters or anything you draw.
Oh, it's
a website that actually limits your drawing.
No, but doing naturally, I just doing, but yeah, I don't have a time or something. No, but I think that's my just fast, and that's hopefully I can improve that to be more calmer and patient.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, is any other attendees or panel person who have any questions for our guest? Anything?
Okay, I think there's no questions.
Okay, yeah, as we said, I mean, today is a national holiday.
Yeah.
Germany and also in other countries. All right, so if there's no other questions, no more questions, we're gonna conclude, wrap up today's interview. And so finally, we thank again our guest, Marwa, for being here to share her very impressive stories. And I really encourage all the attendees, if you never have listened to the IEEE Soft Robotics podcast, you really have to do that, because that's really interesting, and you can catch up the latest scientific updates in this field. Okay, so thank you all for being here. And our next talk will be next weekend, which will be given by Professor Shiming Zhang from Hong Kong University. And looking forward to see you guys next time. All right, so.
Yeah, thank you, Marwa.
Thank you,
for
thank
us.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Xuan,
Thank
for
you.
co-hosting.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you, Jen, for organizing. Okay, so see you guys next time.